Good afternoon, Mr. Park. Good afternoon. The Pharo scan is something that the team uses for accident information, is that correct?
Yes, sir, they can use it for accidents.
Is that not what it's used most of the time for?
We call them out quite regularly on shooting investigations.
Okay. But it's used in accident reconstruction as well? Is that what I understood? Okay. How long have you been with the Sheriff's Office? Again, I'm sorry, you might have said it. I tried to take that note and I may have missed it. Apparently I did.
23 years.
How many years?
23 years, several months.
Okay. And what did you do when you first started with the Sheriff's Office?
I started in corrections
Okay.
as an ID officer,
All right.
fingerprinting officer. Then I was moved to what was formalized as a crime scene unit later on that year, 1995.
Been doing it?
Most of my career has been in forensics.
Okay. And did you go through the academy here at the Knox County Sheriff's Office?
Yes, sir.
And how long was that academy? How long did it take you to go through that academy?
Ours was about 10 weeks.
Okay. It included a lot of different things, including how to use a firearm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Were you familiar with firearms before you began with the Knox County Sheriff's Office
Yes, sir.
Academy?
Yes,
Okay. And so that was in school, I mean, it was kind of in classroom and also on the field shooting, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you have to get recertified, you have to do retraining every year?
Yes, sir.
Okay. How long is that retraining?
We typically shoot 3 times a year.
Okay. How many rounds do you shoot when you shoot 3 each time?
Hundreds.
So each time you go to shoot, you shoot hundreds, so if it would be somewhere in the neighborhood of 600 that you would shoot a year, 600 rounds a year? When you say hundreds, I don't know what you mean.
500 to 1,000 rounds a year.
Okay. Over the course of 3 different.
We practice and we qualify for a score.
The dowel rods that you testified to, do you know their diameter?
No, sir.
Are there different diameters, or are they all the same?
No, they're different.
You referenced the northeast corner or the northeast side of the house that there was a deflection, and as I understood it, you said it was possibly off of a stud.
Possibly.
Yeah. And so, do you know anything about home construction? You referenced the stud.
I know the walls consist of 2x4s. I have constructed rooms before, yes.
And those walls, those studs are centered on 16.5-inch centers. Is that a fair statement?
They typically are every 16 inches.
Okay. 16?
I believe so.
Somewhere in that neighborhood. Okay. Have you ever done any patrol?
I went through the patrol FTO program.
And in a scenario where a bad guy's on the other side of the wall, possibly shooting at people that you can't see, would you shoot into that house?
If I felt it was safe, that no one else was there.
Okay. But if you couldn't see the other people, would you shoot?
Probably not.
Do you still have Exhibit 325 with you?
I'm sorry?
Do you still have that exhibit?
No, sir. I have a copy.
You do have.
I have copies of the notes.
I see. Now this is 5 pages, is that right? It's 5 pages, you agree with me, there's 5 pages. Count. 1, 2. You agree with me? Yes. Okay, that's what I mentioned. On page 5 of this particular exhibit, you have the height of the defect in the wall itemized, correct?
Yes.
But there's no similar reference as the one in the backyard as the height, correct?
There are measurements taken.
But this diagram doesn't show that particular height. This would be page 2.
The diagram does not, the key denotes the
Right.
height, but no diagrams.
Then you agree with me that the height of those are different from the height?
Yes, sir.
The one on the northeast wall, this would be what I guess we're calling the side yard, is that correct? It's an 85 degrees upward angle,
Yes, sir.
and the one on the southwest wall is an 85 degrees downward angle.
Yes, sir.
And they are different heights from the ground.
The ground, yes, sir.
Do you know when you left the scene out there at 6802 Cardindale?
I believe it was sometime after noon.
We're looking at crime scene sign-in sheet. Help you remember when you left?
I believe those when we leave.
So this is a crime scene sign-in sheet, correct?
Yes, sir. Time out is noted, yes, sir.
Okay. And so what time did you leave?
15:20, which is 3:20, and 20 p.m.
You got there around 9 o'clock that morning.
Yes, I called in and then radio, and then when the officer walks through the officers.
Yeah, I'm not trying to tip you up on, I think you said 9:01 earlier. Right, I'm just saying around 9 o'clock to
Yes, sir.
3:20 you were there.
Yes.
And during that time period, you helped Tommy Finch generate this diagram in Exhibit 325. You have to,
I didn't help him.
I mean, you have to collect the information to do that. So what would we say, a little over six hours? Is that right? Be roughly about 6 hours.
It didn't take 6 hours to do the measurement.
Right.
But I was there.
You were there, that was 6 hours. 6 hours. You were doing other things as you described on your direct examination. Thank you. That's all I have.
Anything to redirect?
Your Honor.
You can step down, thank you.
Glenn Simmerly?
Just make parts, bro.
Ladies and gentlemen,
Just, similar.
Bobby's here too.
Judge, Mr. Allen had asked to call Mr. Simmerly to testify, and we have a pending motion to exclude the 3D simulation. We had some discussions about it pre-trial, I guess a week or two maybe before trial. Court wanted to hear more proof about the case. Of course, the court was not as familiar then as it is now, and so Mr. Simmerly actually was one of 2 people who had performed what you're hearing now as a Pharo camera, and the data for the Pharo camera, as I understand it, was used by Mr. Jones then to make his 3D simulation. So I felt like before we took up Mr. Simmerly's testimony, we should have a jury out hearing it, and that's
yeah, that's what we're doing. Make your proper going to what it is you're going to try to present to a jury so I can see who
Officer Simmerly is the operator of the Pharo scanner, it's called. He's the one who set the scanner up, let it do its thing, downloaded the data to Mr. Jones. It's Mr. Jones who actually processes the data and created the 3D images that are part of what the scanner does. So
Well, who are you calling, please?
I was calling Glenn Simmerly to say he operated the camera, then I was going to call Bobby Jones to say that he processed the data along with crime scene photographs to create the 3D images that he created.
Well, let's go straight with Mr. Jones, if that's not going to be admitted.
We call Bobby Jones.
Chief solemnly swear the evidence you're about to give before you this cause will be the truth, whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Please have a seat.
Go ahead and state your full name for the record, if you would.
Bobby Eugene Jones.
And where are you employed, Mr. Jones?
I work for myself, and I'm also a part-time employee with the Knox County Sheriff's Department.
Okay, you're reserve deputy.
I am.
What rank do you hold as a reserve deputy?
I'm an assistant deputy chief.
Okay. And you said you work for yourself. Are you the proprietor of www.reconstructionist.com?
Yes, it goes by Bobby Jones.
Okay. Tell us, what is it that Bobby Jones and Associates does?
I'm a crash reconstructionist, and I also contract out to train other police officers how to use the Pharo scanner, as well as other techniques in forensic mapping.
Okay, and how often do you teach classes on Pharo scanning?
Pretty much weekly,
Okay, and is that where do you teach your classes?
all over the nation.
Okay, and tell the judge what a Pharo scanner is.
Pharo scanner is a device that captures 3D laser data, kind of like a total station, but rather than only capturing a few points, we're capturing millions of points, basically bringing a crash or a crime scene to a computer or a virtual environment.
Okay, so is it actually taking pictures while it takes the measurements?
It does both. It scans first, collecting the scan data, and then it takes photos.
Okay, so how is it that any particular scene is processed with the Pharo scanner?
Well, it's first scanned, a number of scans in different positions, so that the scene can be captured in various positions, and then all of those scans are put together on a computer to create a 3D virtual world.
Okay, so when you say you do multiple scans, you're actually setting up a device somewhere in the room?
That's correct.
And you brought a device like that with you today?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and how many times, like if we were in this particular room and we wanted to document this room, how many different areas would you have to set up the scanner?
Well, one scan would capture the entire room, but if you wanted to see behind it, because it's not an X-ray, for example, if I wanted to see behind this witness stand, I would have to bring the scanner back here. And I would tie all of these scans together so it would look as one.
Okay.
So we can look at the courtroom from any perspective.
So the operator of the scan, the person that's actually setting it up and turning it on, does that person do anything more than just basically making it function?
That's all. That's pretty much it.
Okay. And what does this Pharo scanner do in terms of data? How does it collect its data?
Well, it's a 3D laser that's built into a box, and I apologize if I may use one of these boxes. Imagine that this is the box of the scanner. There's a mirror that's centered right in the middle. The mirror spins. The laser beam is sent into the mirror from the side, sent into a 45-degree cut. The laser beam will go out and the mirror spins around, capturing all the data vertically. Well, while it's doing that, the scanner spins 180 degrees. Basically, it's captured a globe, a lamp globe, if you will, of information. Everything within its sight and range. And it does that by capturing and documenting three-dimensional points, which it converts to a geometric coordinate system. And in summary, where we can look at it as if we were standing in place.
And so the information that the Pharo scanner then holds, how is that information processed?
Well, we enter that into a software called SCENE, S-C-E. And the SCENE software is also produced by the same people that make the scanner. In fact, that is the scanner there with the label Pharo in blue. So this software brings in the data from an SD card. The SD card, which was used originally to capture the raw data, then processes all of the raw data so that we can visualize it on the scene. So it processes it in a couple of ways. One, as it brings all the data and it's looking at grayscale intensity of every laser scan point, so we can look at the scan in black and white, for lack of better terms. It also applies all the photographs to each and every scan point, of which there are millions. And all of those millions of scan points put together create what we call a point cloud. And that point cloud allows us to visualize the scene and gather measurements for analysis with extreme accuracy.
Okay. And with regard to this particular case, to be clear, you never went to 6802 Cardindale Drive, did you?
I did not, sir.
And is it commonplace for you to take data from multiple scenes that you've never been to?
It is.
Okay. And did you do any follow-up with Investigator Merritt or investigators with any follow-up questions after you received the data from the scans?
I did, sir.
And what is it that you requested from Investigator Merritt?
Crime scene photographs.
Okay. And what was the purpose of that?
Well, with the scans, and if I may, I've got a couple of things I can show the court. There were a couple of things that we were interested in. One is bullet trajectory. In other words, how did the bullet go from one point to another? And on the crime scene, bullet trajectory rods, longer versions of what I have here, were used, along with spheres. And these are called bullet trajectory spheres that are specially made to work with the scanner. As the scanner scans, it captures around the sphere. So if you can imagine the scanner at Mr. Allen's position scanning these spheres, it would capture half of the sphere. So while it captures two positions, the scanning software can then use all of these thousands of scan points on this sphere to determine a center of mass, a center point on each one of these spheres. If we know the XYZ coordinate of the center point of each sphere, then we can create what's called a geometric ray, or a trajectory line. So that's what we're interested in. How did it scan these? Where were their positions? And that's what the software helps us determine. And from that, we can create trajectory lines to show the bullet path from point A to B.
And the Pharo scanner and the, I'm sorry, the name of the software that you use to process it?
SCENE.
Okay, and the scene software, is that software and the hardware, the Pharo scanner, used in the criminal justice industry as a whole?
Yes, sir, it is.
On a regular basis?
Yes, sir.
And you are tasked, at least your company is, with teaching agencies and departments with how to use the scanner and how to use the software?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how many times have you testified in court based on the information from a Pharo scanner?
As a crash reconstructionist, numerous times. The Pharo scanner has never really been questioned. I've introduced it as part of diagrams and 3D illustrations.
Yeah, so it's been accepted in courts in all around this country?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And Mr. Jones, you mentioned that your company, Bobby Jones and Associates, you did do training for officers. You also have provided the court with a 36-page CV, curriculum vitae, that has your experience and training in it.
Yes, sir.
We'd make that as an exhibit, so the next bunch of exhibit and pass. It's exhibit number 327 for the court's review. May I approach?
Sure.
And so, just to be clear, Mr. Jones, the 3D scans that the Pharo creates, this is not an animation of a crime scene, is it?
No, sir.
What is it actually? It's not an animation. What do you characterize it as?
It's a 3D point cloud representing exactly what the scanner captured in a geometric order.
Okay, and you prepared with your scene software. You prepared the exhibits that are being up on the screen as we see them now, and I'm going to just go through these exhibits and tell us that what we're looking at. We can start.
I apologize, sir. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Nope. We'll start with the first exhibit that's,
I'm going to call this the south side of the house, just for the way that I refer to it anyway. The window to the victim's bedroom is to the left. You see the two trajectory spheres as well as the position of the shooter. And there is a yellowish line leading from the shooter going through the spheres, and that goes into the bedroom. And what you're looking at is the 3D point cloud in addition to the placement of the trajectory line.
okay, and this is actual MP4.
Yes, sir, it is. So this is going to take us around, now looking at the south wall that I just referred to, and the other position of the shooter with the trajectory rod and the trajectory spheres.
Okay. And so you placed a body, obviously, in the bed there that was not there?
I did, sir.
And it's a mannequin-looking body?
It is, sir.
And the shooter outside, those placements, why were they placed where they were placed?
Based on the placement of the casings, the spent casings, knowing that this is a Glock semi-automatic pistol, we know that the ejection is generally to the right, and sometimes to the back, so it's at least in that area or maybe closer.
Okay. And then you have still images that we'll just page through here, and you tell us when you...
So what you're looking at with the still images is I'm showing you both the 3D scan, and then I take the 3D scan out so that you can see the trajectory lines.
Okay.
So that is with the 3D scan, same trajectory lines, and the previous one was without the 3D scan.
So the scene software allows you to remove walls and the things that the camera has, or rather the scanner has detected?
That's correct, sir.
So that's what we're seeing, wallless shots? Okay.
Yeah, basically we just turn the visibility of the scan off.
Okay.
If I may, what is it that tells you the distance of the shooter from the wall, the distance of the gun from the wall?
Since we know that the ejection is to the right side, and it goes to the right and sometimes back, we know that the shooter is at least that close or maybe closer to the wall.
So it's based on the position of the spent casing.
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Anything else? Okay.
And this is the final MP4.
While you got the image up there, could you explain again the significance and purpose of the white round balls?
Yes, sir. The spheres are for calculating and determining the exact trajectory based upon the scan positions of the center point of each sphere. So we're able to calculate 2 points, which we can draw a line between the 2 points and then extend those. And that is the trajectory of each round. Or in short, the path of the bullets.
And that's all the exhibits that for Mr. Jones, Judge, and we obviously we were going to tender him as an expert with specialized knowledge in reconstruction and ask that these exhibits be admitted as results of the Pharo scan.
Do you want to go around?
So the first page, Mr. Jones, of your CV references motor vehicle accident reconstruction, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you, as Mr. Allen stated, you didn't go out to 6802, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And the only information you based what we've been seeing here today on was the crime scene photographs you got from Mr. Merritt
And the 3D scans.
and the 3D Pharo scans.
Yes, sir.
Well, inside the house.
And outside the house.
Okay. And so you don't know the distance from the wall of the variety of different pieces of evidence that were found out there. Is that correct?
I can tell you the distance on most items, yes, sir.
Do you know a guy named Tommy Finch?
I do.
Okay. And you've not reviewed his information that was just introduced a moment ago through Brad Parker?
I haven't.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Jones? You didn't, in preparation for the things that we've just looked at, you did not review information from Tommy Finch and Brad Parker?
That's correct.
And you knew that Tommy Finch and Brad Parker were out there making measurements and diagrams of their own?
I did not know.
You did not know that?
No, sir.
And the crime scene photographs that you reviewed, are you aware that they've been introduced now here in this trial?
I have no idea about the crime scene photographs, other than I've seen them.
So why would you need the crime scene photographs to give you a perspective if this Pharo scan is so effective at taking all these photographs and images that you described?
Well, I'm looking at anything that may have been moved or changed or altered from the Pharo scan to the crime scene photographs, which from time to time happens.
Do you know how many times Ms. Walker was struck with a bullet?
Once to my understanding.
And your images that we've looked at here portray that she was actually struck twice?
No, they show the trajectory going toward her head from both directions.
It's your testimony that they don't present an image where she's been struck twice?
I'm not saying that she was struck twice. No, they're showing the bullet trajectory and the heading directions.
You've testified to a lot of motor vehicle accidents as it relates to these particular scans, correct?
I have certainly.
And in those cases, did you put cars and stuff in your particular scans and images?
I did, sir.
I think when Judge McGee was asking you questions about the position of firearms and things of that nature, you made some assumptions, did you not?
Yes, sir.
And you've not testified as a crime scene reconstructionist.
That's correct.
All the testimony you've given in an expert capacity has been part of motor vehicle accidents.
That's correct, sir.
And so the images that we have of the person standing outside of this house, you have them in what's called a shooter's position.
Yes, sir.
You base that on an assumption.
Based that on the assumption that the casings had not been moved and the markers were in the correct place.
But you don't know the distance of the particular person other than the assumption from the house, other than the assumption that you made when Judge McGee asked you a few questions.
Well, the measurements show about 7 feet roughly, 6 to 7 feet, depending on where you measure on the house, or the back of the house or the south side. As I recall, roughly 5 to 6 feet on the, I guess that would be the west side.
But you've not personally inspected the firearm in this case, correct?
No, sir.
So you wouldn't know how that particular firearm would eject shell casings.
I do know how that model fire
Goes to the right, but other than that, you don't know any more than that.
goes to the right, sometimes back. That's what we find in our studies.
But you've not tested that as it relates to this particular firearm.
No, sir, but I have conducted hundreds of tests in my career.
I respect that, but none of those hundreds of cases were not particularly directly related to this case.
Well, they are indirectly because many of them were blocks.
Those hundreds of cases are not directly related to this case, but there was only one firearm that was used that you have not personally inspected. Right?
I've not inspected the firearm, that's correct.
But the images, like I said, you've got in what we call, you said you were assistant deputy, is that right, or a part-time deputy, is that what I understood?
Part-time, yes, sir, assistant chief deputy.
In the shooter's position, you've got this person holding nothing, but you've got them holding both hands together, discharging a firearm.
That's correct, sir.
And that is an assumption you've made.
I don't know that that's an assumption. We know a firearm was fired. We know the trajectory of the bullet.
But your images show holding a gun with both hands.
That's correct, sir.
What do you base that information on?
That is an assumption.
Yes, sir. Did you introduce the CV? We'll make these, let me just make these the next collective. You won't see them, it's the same. Yeah, this is just the purpose of this here. So if you just thumb through these different images, exhibit 328, please.
Yes, sir.
Those are the images that we've been looking at on the stream, is that correct?
Sir.
For purposes of this hearing, Judge, we'd just make those a part of this hearing. And who asked you to create these particular images?
I don't recall if it was Detective Merritt or Detective Molinax at the time.
And these images were created sometime last year?
If I'm not mistaken, somewhere around June 2017.
That's all I have, Judge.
I believe you can step down. Yes, sir.
Wait a minute, Judge. Hang on a second, please. I'm sorry, Mr. Jones. That's all I have. I apologize.
All right, first of all, the court finds no problem with Mr. Jones' qualifications or the integrity of the scientific principles he's quoting, utilizing and incorporating in the 3D picture that he has developed in this case. This decision is governed by Rule 702, Rules of Evidence. If scientific, technical, or other specialized knowledge will substantially assist the trier of fact to understand the evidence or to determine the fact in the issue, a witness qualified as an expert by knowledge, skill, experience, training, or education may testify in the form of an opinion or otherwise. In this case, Mr. Jones' evidence is just another kind of visual evidence. It's certainly more developed and a lot more contained in it than the ordinary photograph. All kinds of information that is conveyed with the assistance of computerized technology. But when all is said and done, it's still basically just a visualization of what we've already seen in the form of the other evidence, the pictures of the bullet holes, the picture of the wound, the the information that has been determined about what kind of, how the victim was lying in the bed at the time the wound was encountered. There is a degree of animation simply in the way that the shooter has been depicted. Person in a classic shooting stance, which suggests a kind of deliberateness and coolness that may or may not accurately describe the actual shooter and the actual act of shooting. And that plus the fact that this technology has not been generally accepted in crime scene reconstructions, but rather in civil car wreck investigations, would lead the court to conclude that since we have all this evidence basically in a more elementary or primitive form, and we have it, there is some animation based on presumption, based on assumptions, and the fact that the basic fact that seemed to the court to be of some importance that might help the jury understand how this happened was the distance of the gun from the wall and how that might relate to intent. But as it turns out, Mr. Jones came to his conclusion the same way the jury has already been given information of exactly where the shell casings were and the distance that a Glock, this model, distance and direction that it typically ejects the shells. That's already before the jury. So the court would find that it doesn't offer that much new information. There is a bit of animation involved that has not been generally accepted in this particular kind of case, and it is very cool to look at. But for the reasons I've given, the court will sustain the objection to the introduction of this information, this evidence.
Thank you.
Your Honor, based on that, the motion in limine, we spoke to Mr. Jones, and he did remove the figures from and the animations, and so we have a second set that I forwarded to Mr. Stone yesterday, I believe, without the figures that just show the trajectories. At this point, the jury has very little in terms of trajectory. We didn't go into anything with Brad Park in terms of the angles and the degrees, because I quite frankly thought that this evidence would be accepted by the court, given Mr. Jones' CV and the fact that he has qualified as an expert in the past. So if the court will give me a chance to get that information, I have a whole set of PowerPoint slides without the figures in it, if that would...
If you can just limit it just to the issue of trajectory, he did have some information to share on that point that's not been presented in any other form. So the court would be going to allow that.
Thank you.
On the issue of trajectory, Judge, I think it's my objection would be it would likewise be cumulative because of the nature of the testimony of Brad Park. If Mr. Allen was to recall Brad Park, and they've talked about the degrees, exhibit whatever number this is, has all that information in it. 325.
We have nothing in trajectory in the record at this point, Judge.
The images in the diagram have trajectory on them. On the diagram,
The rods are the only thing that's been offered so far, and this technology that Mr. Jones is talking about is different. It's figuring it out on the whole.
Judge, this exhibit 325 has, on page 3, has trajectory on it. Then the third page. They both have trajectory. We'll take a look at that. It's 3 pages.
Well, the court's point is this is a different kind of evidence. I will allow Mr. Jones to offer his evidence on the issue of trajectory alone.
Thank you.
Judge, if I just need to put this on the record, though.
Sure.
He has only testified that he has dealt with accident reconstructions, not crime scene stuff. All this trajectory stuff, there's nothing in any of his CV where he has any information of
I
that.
told you that in the original decision, but the problem I had with it don't really apply to the trajectory, the information he has about trajectory. I'll allow it in.
I'm going to need about 5 minutes, Judge, to go and get that. He emailed it to me. I forwarded the email to Mr. Stone, if I
Okay,
could.
very brief recess, please let me know soon.
Judge, before we go on, what are we looking at for today? I know there was some discussion at the end of yesterday.
I assume is this your last witness?
I have, is Terry Wilshire?
He'll be here at 5.
I have one more brief witness on a jail call.
Well, the jury's been told you that we'll be here anywhere from 5 to 5:30 every day anyway, so I think
We're good till 6.
we're good to see.
We tried to get Dr. Lockmiller couldn't be here this afternoon, Judge, so we're not able to conclude anything.
Well, that's fine. I assume that this is going to carry over to Monday anyway, so.
Well, my plan after Wilshire was Alan Merritt, and the statement that we're going to put in through him, in addition to testimony, the statement is an hour and 40 minutes long for Alan Merritt, so I don't know if you're wanting to.
We'll go, I want to get in as much as we can, but we will stop at least by 6.
Okay.
Judge, just note our objection. I just want to make sure.
Certainly, I understand your objection.
Thank you, Judge.
All rise. Court's in recess.
Can be seated. State where to call.
You do?
Depends where to call.
Yes, sir.
You can proceed, General.
We call Glenn Simmerly.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give in the hearing of this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and state your full name for the record.
Glenn Simmerly.
And where are you? I'm sorry, Junior?
Yes, sir.
Where are you employed?
Knox County Sheriff's Office.
In what capacity?
I'm a patrol officer in the traffic division.
How long have you been with the Knox County Sheriff's Office?
17 years.
And how long have you been with the traffic?
Approximately 11.
As part of your responsibilities in the traffic division, do you investigate traffic accidents?
Yes, sir. We do traffic crashes.
Okay. And as part of that responsibility, also, do you at times attend crime scenes?
Yes, sir.
And do you have a particular device that you use both in scenes, accident scenes, and in crime scenes known as the Pharo camera?
Yes.
Tell us what is, I'm sorry, Pharo scanner. Tell us what a Pharo scanner is.
It's a laser device that takes documents the scenes.
Okay. And as far as your role in the use of the Pharo camera, what is your role or function?
Primarily, I go to the scenes, set up the camera, the equipment, and I run the scanner as far as placement of it, the documents.
And in this particular case, on November 21, 2016, were you involved or did you respond to the scene at 6802 Cardindale?
I did.
And did you bring your Pharo camera with you?
I did.
Is your Pharo camera here in the gear that we're talking about? Or is
Yes,
this
sir, it is.
the gear that we're talking about? And what is it that you do when you say you set up the Pharo camera? Describe physically what you're doing.
So there's a little bag there on top. It's a tripod. Set the tripod up, pull the camera out or the scanner out, and set it up on the tripod. Power it up, put the battery in it, power it up. There's some settings you can set it. If you're indoor, you set it under the indoor settings. If you're outdoor, you set it under different meters. You can set it for 20 meters or greater, 20 meters or less.
Okay. And did you do that in this case?
I did.
And did you scan the victim's bedroom in this case?
Yes, sir, I did.
And with regard to the setup, basically you're just making sure it's stable and turning it on and letting it scan?
Correct.
And how many different scan points did you do, if you recall, in this particular
I do
scene?
not recall exactly how many, but it was more than 5.
Okay. And so not only the victim's bedroom, but did you also scan outside,
Correct.
both in the backyard and the front yard?
Yes, sir.
And what do you do once the scans are complete?
There's another bag over there that has a computer in it. I take the card out, the SD card out of the scanner, and download it into that computer under the scene, which is the program that we use to work process the scans that it's taken.
Okay, and did you perform any processing using scene in this
I did
case? What did you do with the data in terms of allowing other people to access that data?
That equipment is accessible to the sheriff's office, some of the people at the sheriff's office. And there's a gentleman that teaches us this machine, Bobby Jones, and he has access to it, so he took it from there and processed it.
And to be clear, Bobby Jones never went to 6802 Cardinal, right?
No.
But he took the data that from your scans and ran it through the scene processing software?
Object, the lead, cost speculation.
If you know. What did Bobby Jones do with your
Yeah, I
data?
called him and told him that he asked me about them, if we scanned it, and I told him they were on the laptop, and that I hadn't done anything with them.
Okay.
And he pulled them, he processed it.
And you provided those, how? By putting those in somewhere, a cloud or somewhere that he could access that data, or?
He has access to that computer.
I understand.
So I guess it's through the internet, but the cloud probably, I don't recall which program it does that.
Okay. Pass it.
I didn't get your credentials, Mr. Simmerly. You work with we've met before, have we
Yes,
not?
sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. You doing all right this afternoon?
I am, sir.
Good. I'm good. Tell us a little bit about your credentials. You do. I understand you work traffic crashes, but I didn't get your history with you with the sheriff's department.
Yes, sir. I've worked for the Knox County Sheriff's Office for
How long you been with the sheriff's office?
approximately 17 years.
Okay. And have you always done what you do now?
No, I worked patrol for about 4.5 years.
Your first 4.5 years?
Well, I worked in the jail for 1.5 years.
Okay. That's kind of where everybody starts out, isn't it?
That's what I did, yes.
Okay. And then after that 1.5 years, you went to patrol?
Yes, sir.
And then you went to do something else? Or?
I went to motors, traffic unit.
Okay. So you on bikes? Are you on a bike?
Yes, sir. I ride a motorcycle.
Okay. And what is your rank with the Knox County Sheriff's Office?
Patrolman.
And how soon after you started working for the Sheriff's Office did you go through the academy?
I'd already, prior to going here, I'd been through the academy, went through Walter State's.
I see. And then you started as a CO, correctional
Yes, sir. I
officer?
graduated Walter State in September 2001. Started here in April of 2002.
And over the course of your tenure with the Knox County Sheriff's Office as a patrol officer, motor division, how many traffic accidents have you worked?
More than 1,000.
Okay. And this Pharo camera am I calling it right, a Pharo camera or a Pharo scanner?
Scanner, laser scanner.
That Pharo scanner, how long has the Sheriff's Office had that particular scanner?
We've had it approximately 2.5 years.
Okay.
3 maybe.
And so you've personally used that in traffic accident crashes here in Knox County?
Yes, sir. I'm part of the crash reconstruction team.
Okay.
And we criminally prosecute a few traffic crashes.
I see. So is it also used in the civil world as well, the Pharo scanner?
Yes, sir, they do.
Okay. And in criminal cases?
Yes, sir.
Okay, but all that's been related to motor vehicle accidents or accidents involving motor vehicles? All those scans that you've had with, I think you said you had, where there's crimes involved, those dealt with motor vehicle?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And this was the first time this scanner was ever used, in this case, was the first time one's ever been used in a scene like this?
For Knox County, yes.
Okay. How would the scanner be used in a civil case by the Knox County Sheriff's Office?
It's not used in a civil case by the Knox County.
Not at all,
No, sir.
but it's used only in cases involving motor vehicle crimes? I'm not trying to trip you up. Maybe that's a terrible question. I thought you said that it's been used in civil cases and in cases involving crimes relating to motor vehicles.
I thought I heard you say something, refer to something civil.
Okay.
Just earlier.
Right. Is it or is it not used in civil cases?
No, it is not.
Okay. You know Mr. Jones is privately employed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. You know he's an accident reconstructionist?
Yes, sir. He's the one that taught me crash reconstruction. One of the ones.
Just a moment, John.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That's all the questions I have, Your Honor.
Anything on redirect?
We call Bobby Jones.
You can step down. Mr. Jones, you're still under oath.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead and state your full name for the record.
Bobby Eugene Jones, Jr.
Mr. Jones Jr., where are you employed?
I'm self-employed, Bobby Jones and Associates. I'm also part-time employed with the Knox County Sheriff's Office.
Okay, what rank do you hold in the Knox County Sheriff's Office?
Assistant Chief Deputy.
And what responsibilities do you have with regard to the Sheriff's Office?
Primarily now is crash reconstruction, advising, consulting, assisting with crash reconstruction scenes, the mapping, drawing of diagrams, calculations, and also putting together scans on crash and crime scenes.
Okay, and what about Bobby Jones and Associates? What does your company do?
Crash reconstruction and some crime scene reconstruction.
Okay, and how long have you been in the law enforcement business?
Since 1985.
Okay, and what's your experience been in law enforcement?
It's ranged, been focused pretty much on crash reconstruction, but I've done a little bit of everything.
Okay, and you have a website where your consulting services are documented?
Yes, I do.
Okay, is that reconstructionist.com?
It is.
And part of your toolkit, so to speak, of things that you use in reconstruction, one of the things that you might use is the Pharo camera.
It is.
And to tell the members of the jury, what is a Pharo scanner? I misspoke, correct? It's a Pharo scanner, not a Pharo camera?
Yes.
Okay, tell us what a Pharo scanner is.
It's a Pharo 3D laser scanner is a device that's used to capture basically a snapshot of reality in such a way that we can view that in a virtual world on a computer. So we can go to a crash or a crime scene and set this scanner up, turn it on, and it collects millions of points. And those millions of points are produced in a visual, what we call a point cloud. So kind of illustration of this box being the scanner, there's a mirror mounted right in the center. The mirror spins and it throws out a laser beam. While it spins, the box turns the head of the scanner. And as it turns, it captures the entire area on both sides, top and bottom. So it captures a lamp globe of information, if you will. So we move the scanner around to different positions so we can see from different positions and have more of a whole view of a crash or a crime scene than just a partial view. After that, photographs are taken by the scanner itself. So it scans first, then it takes the photographs. This allows us to see grayscale or black and white imagery, as well as color imagery of the crash or crime scene.
How long have you been involved in analyzing data from a Pharo scanner?
The Pharo scanner since 2012, and prior to that, I was using Leica scanners for a number of years.
Okay, and with regard to the Pharo scanner, is that something that's been generally accepted in the courts around this country?
Yes, it has.
And do you, through Bobby Jones and Associates, teach the methodology and use of the Pharo scanner?
I do. I travel all over the nation teaching other police departments how to use this technology in crash and crime scene reconstruction and investigation.
Okay, and how long is your course that you teach?
It's a 40-hour class. I'm going from Monday through Friday to teach the class.
Okay, and who is the audience in your classes?
It's 99.9% police officers. Every now and then I have some private individual that will hire me for the training. Mostly police.
Okay, and where have you been, let's say in 2018, where have you been to teach police agencies on the use of this camera, or scanner?
I apologize. Recently, I was in Oakland, I've been Wisconsin, Florida, Georgia, Alabama, and I'm sorry, I just don't remember. But pretty much from West Coast to the East Coast, from the north to the Canadian border, all the way down to South Florida and Miami, and pretty much a lot of places in between.
Okay, and the purpose of your 40-hour course is to train people like Officer Simmerly on how to use the camera, or are you also training in the processing of the data?
Both, how to use the scanner and processing the data.
Okay. And in your class, do you discuss both crime scene and accident reconstruction?
I do. It's all part of forensic scene mapping. So whether it's a crash or a crime scene, it really doesn't matter. The procedures are almost identical.
Okay. And have you been tendered as an expert before in the field of reconstruction?
I have many times.
And you've testified before and been accepted by the courts around this country?
I have.
We tender Mr. Jones as a reconstruction expert in reconstruction.
Have a few questions, Judge.
Very well.
You've been tendered as an accident reconstructionist, correct?
That's correct, sir.
And the accidents, you keep using this phrase, crash or crime scene, right?
Yes, sir.
And you know Mr. Simmerly,
I do, sir.
and he's an honest person. You know him to be an honest person.
Yes, sir.
Okay. This particular Pharo device is used by the Knox County Sheriff's Office as it relates to crime scenes involving motor vehicles.
We use it for both. We primarily borrow it for the purpose of capturing crash, but we also use it for crime scenes, which is why I'm here today.
Crime scenes relating to motor vehicles.
Crime scenes involving any kind of thing.
Well, this particular scene was the first time the Pharo camera was used for a scene like this, correct?
Here in Knox County, that's correct.
And, but he would be telling the truth, Mr. Simmerly would be, when he talks about that it's been used for here, primarily prior to this case, for motor vehicle crime scene investigations, correct?
That's correct. That was the main purpose that we bought.
And you've not been tendered as an expert as it relates to being a crime scene reconstructionist for purposes of cases like this.
That's correct. I have not.
Judge, I renew my objection.
This court will, based on everything that's been presented, this court will recognize Mr. Bobby Jones as an expert in the field of forensic reconstruction.
Mr. Jones, when we talked about processing of the data that the Pharo camera generates, what is the methodology that you use to process that data?
We use software called SCENE, S-C-E-N-E. That is made by the same company that makes the scanner. The SCENE software reads the data that's collected by the scanner, which is stored on an SD card. It's put into the software and it's processed. The processing allows us to visualize all of the data captured by the scanner. We can visualize that both in black and white and color, as that is part of the process to add color to these scans as well. Eventually, we can look at a 3D view as well as the scanner's perspective. We can capture imagery from that, or we can create fly-through videos or walk-through videos, basically being able to take you back to the scene and allow you to see what the scanner saw.
And so, for example, in this room, if you use the scanner to scan this room, could you do things like remove the ceiling and remove the walls and things of that nature?
Yes, there are tools in the software that allow us to temporarily hide walls and ceilings so we can see down into rooms.
Okay. And with regard to this particular scene, the Pharo scanner also scans trajectories.
It does.
Do you do something special with regard to trajectory rods to make sure that happens?
I do, sir.
And have you... Go ahead and explain that to the jury.
as the scanner scans, we set up rods with these spheres. And often the rods are coming out to the wall. And what we're hoping to get with the scanner, and what we do get, is we capture a hemisphere, capture half of the sphere. It uses the calculation of all the placement of all of those points to calculate literally thousands of points on this surface to calculate the exact center of each one of these spheres. With that, we know an XYZ coordinate for each. And using a basic Pythagorean theorem, we can calculate a trajectory line. In other words, a geometric ray or straight line following the bullet path based upon the position of the rod.
And so the scanner is actually reading the baseball-sized object to create that?
It is,
Does that work both inside and outside?
it does,
Was that done here in this case, both inside and outside?
it was.
Okay. And when you process this data, did you create a series of PowerPoint photographs that you prepared for purpose of a presentation to this jury?
I did.
What I'm handing you, may I approach it? What I'm handing you to mark for identification is 329. If you could go through that exhibit and tell us what that is.
These are the images from the PowerPoint.
Okay. We put this in as 329, the PowerPoint of Bobby Jones with regarding trajectory. Very well. That has to publish. Mr. Jones, I will go to the first page, and if you want to just tell me when you want me to move to the next, when you're done explaining what this is, if we could have the lights. Mr. Jones, do you need a laser?
I'm like that one. Governor, yes, thank you.
Sir?
Just tell me when you want me to move to the next slide.
So what we're looking at here is the top view. North is indicated over here on the right, so it's straight up. This is a top view of the house. The victim's room would be here. There's a wooden fence here, and the window to the victim's room is pointed out here. Next, please. Now this is using the software and the tool that I described where we can clip off part of the ceiling so we can see down into the room. So again, this is the top view, same position. We've just clipped the ceiling off, so now you can see the location of the bed. Next, please. This is a top view. Again, the window here, the fence, and we're moved in just a little bit closer to the top of the house. Next, please. This is with the ceiling removed, and this is the bed, the window, and again, the fence from the same position as the previous slide. And next, please. So we're moving a little closer each time. The window over on the left, the fence on the right. Next, please. And this is the same position as the previous slide, but now we've cut the ceiling off so we can see the location of the bed and the pillows. Next, please. So we're moving back out, and we're going to change the type of view, if I recall correctly. Next, please. This is what we call a clear view. So the software has the ability to create almost like an X-ray view, where it defines the edges of the walls and the fence, such as that, but we can kind of see through the ceiling. Next, please. And now we've moved a little closer, and next. And this again is the clear view, fence, window. Now you can see the trajectory lines, and these are the spheres as they were captured by the scanner, the little green dots Those are where these little white spheres would have been outside the house when the scan was conducted. Next, please. Now we can see with the clear view that, and the ceiling hidden, the trajectory lines as they go through the wall, and of course the location of where they intersect. Next, please. Now we've turned the scan back on with the ceiling hidden, and we've also removed one of the scans, two of the scans that included the bed, so that you can clearly see the trajectory lines as they go into the wall and into the bedroom. Next, please. Now we're looking at the back side of this, what I'll call the south side of the house. The window over here on the left, the location of the bullet hole and the trajectory line and the two spheres, the fence on the right. Next, please. Now the blue line, this is leading over from the bottom of the window, and it goes across the top of the mattress of the bed. The pillows are located over in this area. This is a clear view of that south wall. Next, please. Now we're moving in a little bit closer. This is the same south wall, the same two spheres, the bullet hole in the siding. Next, please. And this is a clear view. This is the top of the mattress, and these are the pillows. And this is the trajectory line leading into the house through the siding. Next, please. Now we move to the side of the house. So we came from the back of the house to the side. The bullet holes here. Next, please. And in this, we can see the pillows, and this dark line right here, that is the top of the mattress. Next, please. This is again the side of the house. We've moved in a little closer to see the spheres and the bullet hole. Next, please. And here again, we can see the top of the mattress and the pillows as they take shape laying on top of the mattress. And you can see the bullet path coming through. Next, please. I think that's it.
Pass witness.
You have the CV.
I do.
Show you what's been marked as exhibit 3.75 identification. That looks at, that's your curriculum vitae or vitae or whatever you say that word.
Yes, sir.
And is that current?
That is the most current one I could find, and I supplemented it with one page of the back.
And so as I understand your testimony, you go around the world doing accident reconstruction, around the country doing accident reconstruction.
I do, sir.
You testify in courts like this about the work that you generate.
I do, sir.
And this is the first time you've had a case like this where you've done trajectory as it relates to bullets.
But I've testified in this.
We move that curriculum, that CV in as the next number of exhibit, whatever is referenced on there. Thank you, Mr. Jones.
I think it's already in. If it's not, it'll be introduced.
Judge, I have it, the scans actually digitally as well as with paper, so I'd like to make that an exhibit for Mr. Jones. You can move higher resolution. So that's going to be the Pharo scanner. That's which number? 330.
Anything further?
No, Your Honor.
Anything regarding? I think, right.
No, Your Honor.
All right, you can step down. Thank you, sir.
Call Sandy Campbell.
You solemnly swear or affirm the evidence you're about to give in the hearing of this cause will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Ma'am, please state your full name and introduce yourself to the jury.
My name is Sandy Campbell, SANDICAMPBELL. I'm currently in front of the Forensics Unit of the Knox County Sheriff's Office.
Okay. Were you part of the team that worked on the State of Tennessee versus Riley Gaul, a homicide involving Emma Walker,
Yes,
back in November of 2016?
yes.
And your first role or responsibility with regard to that case, what did you do?
The first thing I did, which I can't report, was I performed a gunshot residue kit on the...
Okay. And was that at the scene, or was that at the medical examiner's
It was at
office?
the medical exam.
Okay, so you did respond to the medical examiner's office?
Yes.
Okay. And did you collect evidence from the medical examiner?
Yes, like a couple of days later.
May I approach?
Yeah.
Campbell. Mr. Campbell, I'm showing what's been marked for identification as exhibit number 320. Tell us if you recognize that exhibit.
Yes, sir.
What is that exhibit?
It is a Central High School ball cap sweatshirt.
And where did you collect that exhibit from?
I received it from investigator Taylor at the medical examiner's office.
Okay, and that's as worn by Emma Walker as she was brought to the medical examiners?
Yes.
We'd move that in as 320 sweatshirt of Emma Walker, and that's the page.
Very well, then, we received.
Go ahead and publish it if you would. If you open it and show the jury.
Good, I will publish.
Officer Campbell, also as part of your responsibilities, you did go to the residence at 2311 Woods End Way
I did.
for the purpose of confiscating a gun box and contents.
Yes.
Okay, what I'm handing you has been marked for identification as 319. You recognize that? What is that?
It is a Glock box from manufacturer containing receipts to magazines, 20 unloaded cartridges, and
Okay.
test fires from the manufacturer.
Okay, if we'd move that in as the Glock box from Jim Walker, Exhibit 319,
No objection.
Very well, then, we received.
and if we could ask her to open that and show the jury that. Campbell, sorry, I missed these two, that when you said you responded to the Knox County Medical Examiner's Office, I'm handing you what's been marked 311 and 312. Can you tell us what those are? That's 311 and 312.
311 is marked from the medical examiner's office as bullet from head. And 312 is marked as fabric plug from head with fragment from bullet.
And those are, in fact, the same items forwarded to the TBI as well?
Yes.
Okay, we move those in as 311, 312, bullet from head, fabric from head.
Very well, let them be received.
I'm handing you, it's been marked for identification as 313, 314, 315, 316, 317, and 318, successively. And Officer Campbell, can you tell us what all of these exhibits are, 313 through 317?
They are all DNA standards from various people.
If you would, just tell us what is a DNA standard and how you collect it.
We collect buccal swabs, so we just use large Q-tips essentially to kind of scrape the inside of the cheek to collect buccal cells so that then we can obtain DNA from those cells. Item 313 is DNA standards from Noah Walton. 314 are DNA standards from James McCarty. 315 is DNA standards from James Walker. 316 is DNA standards from Amelia Walker. 317 is DNA standards from Ashley Donovan. And 318 are DNA standards from Riley Gaul.
We move those in, Judge, successive exhibits 313 through 318 DNA non-standards.
Objection.
Let them be received.
Officer Campbell, in addition to your duties in collecting evidence from medical examiner and Woods End Way, did you also respond to Maryville College as part of your duties in this case?
I did.
And what was the purpose of you going to Maryville College?
I went along with detectives to search warrant on Riley Gaul's vehicle.
Okay, and when did that occur?
It was on the 21st, actually, 11/21/2016, and approximately 19:42.
Okay. And what I'm handing you has been marked for identification. Successive exhibits 276 through 309, and there's 34 successive exhibits. If you could just thumb through those, 276 through 309, and tell me if you recognize those. Okay, and what are those?
Photographs from the 96 one on the vehicle.
We move those in, judges, the successive 34 exhibits from 276 to 309, and just ask to publish them briefly.
Very well.
Well, actually, so Campbell, with this first one, we're having a little difficulty with the darkness of this first photograph. 276, what vantage point is that from the vehicle?
It's from the rear of the vehicle, showing the license plate.
We've got it projected there. Is that, it's obviously a darker image. What do you clearly see in the back window of this vehicle?
Appears to be a sticker.
Okay. And what about in the rear deck of the back of the vehicle?
What part do you refer to?
This.
I can't tell from the photo.
Okay. if another witness identified as a shoebox, would that appear to be a shoebox?
It does appear to be a shoebox.
Okay. And you can't obviously see it in here, so for this particular exhibit, I'd like to pass it around, Judge.
Very well.
And you took this photograph on November 21st.
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let's move to the next exhibit and just, we'll go through and you tell me when next. Oh, hold up, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Can't see it on here, though. Brighten it more. That's just rising.
Turn it off so you can see everything.
They're looking to it.
Have a little picture.
Yeah, let's let them look at that.
Try it in a minute.
Do you have the exhibit number they would It's the same picture. Okay, we're going to 277. Just go ahead and tell us and tell me to move when you're ready to go to the next one. 277.
This is just a sign for the Cooper Athletic Center with Mr. Elson calling back.
Okay, we're going to go through 278, 279, 280, 281, 282, 283, 284. What are you attempting to document in those pictures?
This is just overall for the interior of the exterior and interior of the vehicle.
Okay, 285,
I believe that's,
286, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, the clothing in the magazine.
285. 286,
Again, the rear vehicle.
okay. 287
The interior of the vehicle.
and 288,
Again, another photo of the interior of the trunk.
okay. And specifically, what do you note down in the lower left corner here in the trunk?
A roll of black duct tape.
Okay. $289 and $290.
These are, this is the back of the driver's side, or the driver's seat. So this is the rear pocket of the driver's seat, and this is a pair of girls' panties.
$291,
And that note is tucked there beside the panties.
$291 and $292. Do you see what that's signed by?
Yes, which is signed by Emma. It says Love Emma.
293,
These were a pair of shoes. I believe they were in the trunk.
294,
This is some paperwork from the Physicians Regional Medical Center that was also in the trunk of the vehicle.
and you see when it's dated?
It is Tuesday, October 25th, 2016.
And again, the paperwork.
Yeah, it's just further pages of the paperwork.
That's 295, 296,
This is a photograph of it up close of the paperwork where it says to use suicide precautions against orders.
297,
This is an information sheet that the hospital emergency room will give you that just tells about whether what they have diagnosed you with, so to speak. And it's linked
298,
This is the back side.
okay, 299,
And then a page.
300,
And a black ball cap that was also in the trunk.
301,
This, I believe, was in the front console of the vehicle, in between those seats.
302,
The registration for the vehicle.
303.
The insurance for the corporation.
Sorry. 304.
The AAA card.
305.
This is a picture of the victim that was located in your console as well.
306.
This is paperwork from the glove box for tires that you purchased.
307.
This is a close picture of one of the pieces of paper from the tires we purchased.
Okay. You know the date and time.
11/18/16 and 11/06. And this is where it was paid for, so it's kind of a receipt.
So we're at I believe 309. Pass the witness, Your Honor.
Cross-examination.
The exhibit, sorry, Ms. Campbell, it's getting long today, I'm sorry. We've met before?
Yes,
Okay. You doing okay?
I am.
Good. The exhibit, do you still have exhibit 319 up there? It's a big old bag full of stuff. So if I could, just to be clear, I'm showing you what's been in this exhibit 319. I don't know that you necessarily have to do that, it's already in the evidence, but this is the bag that has the gun case and receipt, 2 Glock magazines,
Yes,
some 9mm cartridges. Is that right?
yes.
And this actually has been, we had to take some witnesses, I think, out of order just because they had to get back to Nashville. But this actually has been a national crime lab, TBI's crime lab out there?
Yes, sir.
Okay. But all the contents in this particular box?
I believe so.
Okay.
Therefore, it should have been, because we would, since we sealed it, we would send the entire.
Right.
The entire unit. Yes, the entirety.
Okay. So that was sent to TBI in Nashville, and then it came back to
Correct.
Knoxville.
Yes.
And about a week after these instances, Mr. Gaul gave you permission to take his buccal swab?
On the 29th.
Right. He gave permission for you to do that?
Yes, sir.
And that's the exhibit, I think, 318 that we talked about a minute ago? I'm sorry.
I don't recall the number, I'm sorry.
It's these smaller, it's these smaller, 318. That's that bucket swab, like a Q-tip rub on it.
Right, I just.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, and he gave that to you?
Yes.
With his permission?
absolutely.
The search warrant that was executed on his car at Maryville College, that was done, what, the 22nd, I guess, of November, 20?
I have it that it was on the 21st at 1942.
Okay, I couldn't remember the date. So November 21st, 2016, at what time?
At approximately 1942.
Okay. And Mr. Gaul, he was not there at that time when that search warrant was
Not that I
executed?
saw.
And you all did, you took a lot of photographs, and that's what we've been looking at, but y'all didn't take anything out of that car.
No, sir, we did not.
Thank you, Ms. Gann.
Anything on the record? You can step down. Thank you.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, of course, it's clear we're going to have to come back Monday to finish this case. And I'm going to do everything I can to get it in your hand as quickly as I can next week. And the lawyers are too. They're helping. We're trying to, this will be the case. This is what we're trying to get it to you. Ms. White, do we have any motions scheduled on the morning? I think there's a chance I can get started back at Joe at 9:30. So let's try to start as early as we can. Please be here by 9:30, and we'll jump back into this. Have a pleasant weekend, and it will be publicity, so please be very careful and stay away from it. Don't read, watch, or listen to anything about this case. Let's come back and we'll try to finish it up and get the evidence here. Adjourned till 9:30 Monday morning.
Thank you.